Because we live in hell and are up to our necks in corruption at the highest ranks of politics, a new scandal regarding the Supreme Court has surged into the national spotlight. Just days after a New York Times expose detailing how the flag outside of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's house flew upside down in apparent solidarity with the insurrectionists after January 6th, new reporting from the New York Times has revealed that the justice's New York beach house displayed an Appeal to Heaven flag, which was a symbol carried on January 6th and associated with a push for a more Christian-minded government. Now, there are two reasons why this is especially damning. First of all, you may remember that the excuse that Alito gave after the initial story from the New York Times was that his wife, Martha Ann Alito, had been in a dispute with another family on the block over an anti-Trump sign on their lawn, and so obviously, as the result of that apparent dispute, hung their American flag upside down for the national symbol of emergency and distress. Seems like a totally reasonable and believable and definitely not made up reaction to getting into a fight with a neighbor. I mean, really, who among us hasn't issued a national distress call over an argument about a shed? But that was the excuse for the first flag. But unless Martha Ann Alito is fighting with all of her neighbors at all of her homes, then her story is obviously debunked. She was lying. It had nothing to do with her neighbor, which of course we all knew, given the fact that we're not brain dead, and everything to do with the fact that she and her husband are insurrection sympathizers. I should note too, if these people are willing to sympathize with the insurrectionists in public, in their front yards, at both of their houses, then imagine what they'll do in private. Imagine the lengths they'll likely go to provide any support to these people in whatever way they could. If they were willing to so blatantly discard any shred of plausible deniability in the aftermath of a literal insurrection for the world to see, then there really isn't even a shadow of a doubt about the extent to which these people are in the tank for the farthest right fringes of the MAGA Republican Party. But while the first issue, that Alito was caught in a lie, was bad enough, consider the point that's even worse. This is who has been charged, along with his 8 colleagues on the Supreme Court, with litigating a case related to this exact issue. Samuel Alito has aligned himself with the insurrectionists while the Supreme Court is currently sitting on a case that would determine whether or not Trump enjoys presidential immunity in a case directly related to that very insurrection. At this point, there is no difference between the QAnon shaman presiding over this case because, frankly, both of them support the insurrection. And that's a point that MSNBC's Chris Hayes made as well. Quote, "Here's the stark truth. Alito could show up to the next oral arguments with a MAGA face tattoo and you wouldn't be able to impeach and remove him. He could make a $200,000 contribution to Trump's super PAC. In a literal sense right now, there simply is no tangible boundary other than social sanction, personal reputation, pressure from other justices, etc. But short of committing prosecutable crimes, and even that, LOL, who knows, he can do whatever he wants." Which raises the question, what should we be doing about it? AOC was actually on Chris Hayes' show tonight and explored that exact question.
What do you see as your role as a Democratic member of Congress in a Democratic House majority with respect to this court, specifically Alito and more broadly?
Well, I mean, I don't even think that we have to wait until we have a Democratic House majority because we have a Democratic Senate majority. And this is an alarm that I've been sounding for quite some time now. I think that what we are seeing here is an extraordinary breach of not just the trust and the stature of the Supreme Court, but we are seeing a fundamental challenge to our democracy. Samuel Alito has identified himself with the same people who raided the Capitol on January 6th and is now going to be presiding over court cases that have deep implications over the participants of that rally. And while this is the threat to our democracy, Democrats have a responsibility for defending our democracy. And in the Senate, we have gavels. There should be subpoenas going out. There should be active investigations that are happening. And I believe that when House Democrats take the majority, we are preparing and ensuring to support the broader effort to stand up our democracy. But I also believe that when Democrats have power, we have to use it. We cannot be in perpetual campaign mode. We need to be in governance mode. We need to be in accountability mode with every lever that we have. Because we cannot take a Senate majority for granted, a House majority for granted, or a White House for granted. Every single minute matters, and we have to use our power when we have it.
And here's the honest truth. Will we be able to impeach and remove Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito because of their actions as they relate to January 6th? No, not right now. We don't have the numbers in the House, and with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, we also don't have the numbers in the Senate. And so it would be a fool's errand to engage in the doomed practice that is an impeachment effort. But that's not to say that these people get to escape accountability. We've sat through a 15-month investigation based on quite literally nothing against Joe and Hunter Biden in the Republican-led House, and that was with zero evidence. But what it bought the Republicans was news cycles and attention and owning the narrative. We have Senate majorities right now. We should be doing our own investigations into Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, only for something that actually has merit, something that is actually virtuous. We should highlight the wrongs that have been committed in the same way that the January 6th committee engaged in a fact-finding mission and uncovered information that was not only sure to help prosecutors, but more importantly, as far as I'm concerned, inform the public. Republicans rely heavily on operating under the cloak of darkness to get away with their behavior. The more people who know the extent to which conservative justices on the court are compromised, the more pressure there will be to rectify what is so obviously wrong. And I have one last note that I think is worth bringing up. And I don't want to bury the lead here, but I think this is the most important. Clarence Thomas is 75 years old. Samuel Alito is 74 years old. John Roberts and Sonia Sotomayor are both 69. If Donald Trump wins in November, he is virtually guaranteed to appoint replacements for two of these justices, if not more. Meaning that on the ballot this November is the Supreme Court majority for virtually the rest of our lives. And look, I understand that there may be people out there who are not happy with Joe Biden. Joe Biden may not be your first choice. I understand that a lot of people are unhappy with how he's dealt with Israel and Gaza. I understand that a lot of people are unhappy about the cost of groceries and housing. I understand that a lot of people are unhappy about his age. Everyone is 100% entitled to their qualms about how he's presided. But let's be clear here. The alternative, Donald Trump, would mean the court is untouchable for decades. That will have massive implications for abortion and contraception protections, for fair maps, for gerrymandering, for the Voting Rights Act, for Trump's own prosecutions, and this insane notion of presidential immunity, and for democracy as a whole. Joe Biden isn't perfect, but we are kidding ourselves if we are not recognizing what's at stake if Trump manages to win in November. The court will be the least of our problems, but it will be a massive problem, and it will plague us for the rest of our lives. So if we want any hope of rebalancing this dangerous imbalance, wherein insurrection sympathizers are literally ruling on cases related to the insurrection, November is our one and only shot. And I know we hear that a lot, that every election is the most important election of our lifetimes, but the Supreme Court isn't a once every 4 years thing. These people get lifetime appointments. What happens in this upcoming election is the entire ballgame. Samuel Alito's actions here are a mere warning compared to what's on the horizon if we don't give it everything we've got in November. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that. But if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.